The best mechanic couldn't fix this engine that no one understood until this boy showed up. John Miller was on the verge of despair when he heard a weak voice behind him. His workshop, once known as the best in the region, was now facing its worst crisis in 20 years because of a single engine that no one could understand. "Mr. Miller, can I try?" the boy asked in a trembling voice. The owner of the workshop turned abruptly, finding Gabriel, the 13-year-old son of Mrs. Green, the cleaning lady. The boy was standing there, his hands dirty with grease and his blonde hair disheveled, staring intently at the engine of the truck, which for 3 months had challenged all the experts in the area. "Gabriel, get out of here, boy. This is no place for a child," John replied with irritation, running a hand over his tired face. "But I recognize that noise, Mr. Miller. This engine is making the same sound as—" "Nonsense, boy," the man interrupted. "The best mechanics from all over the state have been here. No one can understand what's different about this engine." Gabriel lowered his head but didn't leave. His eyes remained fixed on the engine as if he were seeing something that others couldn't. The strange noise coming from inside the machine was constant, a low hum interspersed with small clicks that formed an almost musical pattern. "My dad always said that every engine has its own voice, Mr. Miller, and I've heard this voice before." John stopped wiping his hands on a rag and looked at the boy more closely. Gabriel always appeared at the workshop when his mother came to work, but he never got involved with the services. He would stay quietly in a corner, just observing everything with those curious eyes. "Your father, boy? I didn't even know you had a father." "I don't talk about him because Mom gets sad," Gabriel murmured, kicking a stone on the ground. "But he taught me a lot before he left." The businessman, Marcus Adams, arrived at that moment with a red face full of anger. He was the owner of the truck, a rich man who transported goods throughout the region. 3 months without his main vehicle was costing him a fortune. "John, you have 1 more day to solve this, or I'm taking my truck and suing your workshop for incompetence," Marcus shouted, banging his fist on the workbench. "Marcus, please, give me more time. I've tried everything." "I don't care," Marcus responded. 3 months, John. 3 months this engine has been here, and no one can get it to run properly." Gabriel approached the businessman timidly. "Sir, the engine isn't broken. It's protected." Marcus looked at the boy as if he had seen a ghost. His face turned pale, and he took a step back. "What's this kid doing here?" "He's Mrs. Green's son, our cleaner," John explained. "Gabriel, go play outside. Let the adults talk." "No!" Marcus shouted, startling everyone. "I mean, the boy can stay. I was just curious to know who he was." The strange reaction of the businessman made John look from Gabriel to Marcus, trying to understand what was happening. Why would such an important man get so flustered because of a child? "Mr. Miller," Gabriel insisted, "can I at least listen to the engine up close? I promise I won't touch anything." John sighed. He had no other options. After 3 months of criticism from all the mechanics in the region, his reputation was destroyed. Some people were already saying he was getting too old for the job. "Okay, but just listen and be careful." Gabriel approached the engine and put his ear very close to the metal. He closed his eyes and remained silent for a long time while John and Marcus watched tensely. The businessman nervously moved his hands, as if he were waiting for something bad to happen. "This system is unique," Gabriel murmured, opening his eyes. "The valves were modified to create a special sequence. That's why it makes that noise." "What do you mean, boy?" John asked, approaching. "Someone messed with this engine so that only someone who knows the secret can fix it. It's like a lock, but in reverse. Instead of locking, it protects." Marcus became even more nervous. "This is child's nonsense, John. Get this kid out of here and finish the job." "Wait a minute, Marcus," John said, observing the businessman's strange behavior. "Gabriel, how do you know this?" "My dad used to create systems like this. He said it was to protect his work from people who wanted to steal his ideas." John's heart began to race. He was starting to understand why Marcus was so agitated. He looked again at Gabriel and then at the businessman, connecting the pieces of a puzzle that was beginning to form in his mind. "Gabriel, what was your father's name?" "Robert Scott. Robert Scott Anderson." The name echoed in the workshop like thunder. John remembered Robert well, a brilliant mechanic who worked alone in a small workshop in the working-class neighborhood. The man had revolutionary ideas and created unique systems for the engines he fixed. "Marcus," John said slowly, "did you know Robert?" "I've never heard of him," the businessman answered too quickly, sweating coldly. "Strange, because about 4 years ago, Robert disappeared all of a sudden. Left his workshop closed, his house empty, and you appeared here around the same time with this truck, saying you had bought it from a guy who couldn't pay the installments." Gabriel looked from one man to the other, sensing the tension in the air. His eyes filled with tears, but he tried to be strong. "My dad didn't disappear, Mr. Miller," he said. "He had to leave to protect us." "Protect you from what, son?" "From people who wanted to steal his inventions," Gabriel replied. "He discovered that someone was planning to take all the systems he created and use them to make money. That's why he modified all the important engines and hid the secrets." Marcus was visibly desperate. "Now, John, I'm not going to stay here listening to this. Child's nonsense. Fix my problem or else..." "Or else what, Marcus?" John interrupted, beginning to understand the situation. "You'll do to my workshop what you did to Robert's." "I didn't do anything. This truck is mine by right." Gabriel approached the engine again, this time with more confidence. "Can I show you how it works, Mr. Miller? My dad taught me the secret before he left." "Gabriel, no!" Marcus shouted, revealing more than he would have liked. "I mean, it's dangerous to touch an engine without knowledge." "It's interesting that you care so much about the boy, Marcus," John observed, "especially after not wanting to even look him in the face a little while ago." The businessman realized he had given himself away. His breathing was heavy and sweat was dripping down his forehead, even though it was a comfortable temperature in the workshop. Gabriel ignored the tension between the adults and began to examine the engine with his hands. His small fingers touched each part with impressive precision, as if he knew exactly where to look. "Here," he said, pointing to a specific part of the engine. "There's a bolt that looks normal, but it's actually a lock. If you turn it 3 times to the right and 1 to the left, it releases the system." John watched, fascinated, as Gabriel performed the exact movement. A small click came from inside the engine, followed by a different sound from the constant hum they were all used to. "How did you know that?" John asked. "Impressed. My dad taught me a game," Gabriel replied. "He would draw pictures of engines and ask me to find the hidden secrets. I thought it was just a game, but he was actually teaching me his work." Marcus tried to approach, but John stopped him with a firm gesture. "Stay there, Marcus. Let the boy work." Gabriel continued to work on the engine, with more parts now moving differently. It was as if the machine was gradually waking up from a deep sleep. "Now I need a small screwdriver," Gabriel asked. John handed him the tool, observing every move the boy made. Gabriel opened a small cover that was almost invisible among the other parts and revealed a secret compartment. "Wow," John exclaimed. "I've never seen anything like this." Inside the compartment were handcrafted parts with impressive precision work. Each one had small engraved marks, as if they were signatures. "They're my dad's special parts," Gabriel explained, carefully picking one up. "He made each one by hand. That's why no mechanic can understand how they work." Marcus was visibly shaken, but tried to maintain his composure. "This proves the truck is mine," he said. "If I brought it here, it's because I have the documents." "Documents can be forged, Marcus," John said, looking directly into the businessman's eyes. "But knowledge like this can't be invented." Gabriel showed John how each special part had a specific function in the engine. He explained that his father had created a system where they all worked together, creating much greater efficiency than normal engines. "That's why your truck uses much less fuel than others," Gabriel said, looking at Marcus. My dad always said his inventions would revolutionize transportation and make a lot of money for whoever knew how to use them, John completed, finally understanding the motivation behind everything. At that moment, Mrs. Green arrived to clean the workshop, as she did every day. Seeing Gabriel working on the engine, she became desperate. "Gabriel, get out of there right now!" she shouted, running toward her son. "Calm down, Mrs. Green," John said. "The boy is helping us." "Helping nothing," she replied, trying to pull Gabriel by the hand. "This will only bring us trouble." "Why, Mom?" Gabriel asked, resisting his mother's pull. "Because," Mrs. Green began to cry, "because the same thing that happened to your father could happen to us." The woman's confession confirmed John's suspicions. Marcus did have some connection to Robert's disappearance. "Mrs. Green, can you tell us what really happened?" "I can't, Mr. Miller, it's too dangerous." Marcus approached Mrs. Green with a menacing expression. "It's better to stay quiet, Mrs. Green, for everyone's sake." "Are you threatening her in my workshop, Marcus?" John positioned himself between the businessman and the woman. "I'm not threatening anyone. I'm just giving advice." Gabriel dropped the tools and hugged his mother. "Mom, you don't have to be afraid. Mr. Miller is a good person, and Dad said that one day the truth would come out." "Your father said that?" Mrs. Green asked, surprised. "Yes, he did. In the last letter he sent me." "What letter, Gabriel?" "You never told me about any letter." The boy ran to an old backpack in a corner of the workshop and took out a yellowed envelope. John and Mrs. Green watched as he carefully opened the paper. "He sent this letter 6 months ago," Gabriel said. "He said that when I found an engine with his special system, I should show everyone how it worked." Mrs. Green took the letter with trembling hands and read it in silence, tears streaming down her face. Marcus tried to look over her shoulder, but John pushed him away. "What does the letter say, Mrs. Green?" "It says that Robert is alive and that he's waiting for the right moment to come back," she replied between sobs. "It says that when Gabriel could show his work to the world, it would be safe to come home." Marcus was getting more and more nervous. "John, I'm not going to stay here listening to these crazy stories. I want my truck fixed today, or else what?" A familiar voice echoed from the entrance of the workshop. Everyone turned and saw Robert Scott standing in the doorway, thinner and with grey hair, but unmistakably the same man who had disappeared 4 years earlier. "Dad!" Gabriel shouted, running toward his father. Robert hugged his son tightly, kissing the top of the boy's head. Mrs. Green was paralyzed, unable to believe what she was seeing. "Hi, my love," Robert said softly to his wife. "Sorry for the delay." Marcus tried to leave the workshop discreetly, but Robert called him. "Don't go, Marcus. After all, didn't you want this truck running so badly?" I don't know what you're talking about, Robert." "You don't know?" Robert smiled without humor. "Then you don't know that this truck you say is yours was actually the last one I fixed before you tried to blackmail me." John watched the scene with fascination, finally understanding the whole situation. Gabriel remained glued to his father, as if afraid he would leave again. "Marcus came to me 4 years ago," Robert began to explain. "He said he had important clients and wanted me to make special modifications to their vehicles. He promised a lot of money and even a partnership in the company. I offered an honest opportunity," Marcus defended himself. "Honest?" Robert laughed bitterly. "You wanted me to sign a contract giving all the rights to my inventions to your company. When I refused, you threatened my family." Mrs. Green finally approached her husband, still in shock. "Robert, are you really here?" "I am, my love, and I'm not leaving again." "But why didn't you come back sooner? Why did you leave us alone?" Robert sighed deeply before answering. "Because Marcus wasn't the only one interested in my inventions. He had partners, powerful people, who weren't going to give up easily. I needed to wait for the right moment to prove that my work was mine." "And what moment is that?" John asked. "When my son could publicly show how my systems work. Gabriel is the living proof that I taught these secrets to him, that they came from me." Marcus was cornered but still tried to get away. "That doesn't prove anything," he said. "You could have taught that to the boy after stealing my truck." "Stealing your truck?" Robert took some papers from his pocket. "These are the original purchase documents for the truck, Marcus, bought by me 5 years ago with my own money. That's a forgery." "Then explain how Gabriel knew exactly where the special parts were, how he knew the secret of the bolts. Do you think I could teach him all that in just a few days?" John was impressed by the cleverness of Robert's plan. "So you waited 4 years to come back?" "Not just waiting. I was working in secret, perfecting the systems and gathering evidence against Marcus and his partners. I was also watching my son from afar, seeing him grow and learn." Gabriel looked at his father with adoration. "Dad, you were watching me all this time?" "Every day, son. I saw you coming to the workshop with your mum, paying attention to everything, asking the right questions. I knew you were ready." Mrs. Green hugged her husband, but was still confused. "Robert, why didn't you tell me anything? I spent 4 years thinking you had abandoned us because I needed you to act naturally. If you knew I was around, you might have let something slip." "Marcus had people watching you." "Watching?" Mrs. Green was scared. "Why do you think you got the job here at the workshop so easily?" Robert explained. "Marcus knew that sooner or later I would come back for my truck. He wanted you to be nearby when that happened." John looked at Marcus with disgust. "You used a mother and a son as bait." "I didn't use anyone. I just offered a job to the wife of the man you were persecuting," Marcus said. "And he still had the nerve to bring my own truck to the workshop where my family worked," Robert completed. Gabriel was listening to everything, trying to understand the complexity of the situation. "Dad, is Mr. Marcus a bad person?" Robert knelt in front of his son to be at the same height. "It's not exactly like that, Gabriel," he said. "Mr. Marcus is a person who made wrong decisions. He wanted to make money from other people's work instead of creating his own." "But why did he do that?" "Sometimes people get so afraid of not getting what they want that they end up hurting other people," Robert explained. "It's wrong, but it happens." Marcus was listening to Robert's explanation with a strange expression on his face, as if he were reflecting on his own actions. "Robert, I didn't want things to get to this point." "What point, Marcus?" "You separated a family for 4 years, made a child grow up without a father, and a woman work alone to support a child. I know I made a mistake, but nothing." Mrs. Green exploded with all the anger accumulated over 4 years. "You destroyed our lives." "My son cried every night, asking where his father was." Gabriel approached his mother and held her hand. "Mom, don't yell. Dad said that people who do wrong things are already suffering inside." The boy's innocent wisdom touched everyone in the workshop. Even Marcus seemed shaken by the words. John, who had been observing the whole situation, approached Robert. "Robert, do you have a plan to resolve all this?" "Yes, I do, John," Robert replied. "First, I'm going to finish fixing my truck. Then we'll talk about the future." "What future?" "The future where my systems will help other mechanics do a better job instead of being hidden for fear of theft." Robert went to the engine with Gabriel at his side. Father and son worked together, with Robert explaining each step, and Gabriel demonstrating that he already knew many of the techniques. "See, John," Robert said while they worked, "this is the true value of knowledge. It's not meant to be kept, it's meant to be shared with those who are interested in learning." "You mean you're going to teach your secrets to other mechanics?" "Exactly," Robert confirmed. "I'm going to set up a school right here in the town where young mechanics can learn new techniques. Gabriel will be my first official student." The boy smiled with pride, continuing to work on the engine with his small but precise hands. "And what about Marcus?" John asked, looking at the businessman who remained silent in a corner. "Marcus will have to decide if he wants to be part of the solution or continue to be part of the problem." "What do you mean?" Robert stopped working and looked directly at Marcus. "I know you have a large transport company with many trucks. If you want, I can adapt all your vehicles with my systems. You'll save so much fuel that you'll recoup the investment in a few months. And why would you do that after everything I did? Marcus asked, surprised. Because everyone deserves a second chance, and because my son is listening to our conversation. I want him to learn that it's better to solve problems than to fight forever. Gabriel stopped working on the engine and looked at Marcus. Mr. Marcus, do you want to be my dad's friend? The boy's simple question left the businessman speechless. He looked around the workshop at John, at Mrs. Green, at Robert, and finally at Gabriel. I would really like that, Gabriel, but I don't know if your dad will forgive me. Robert stood up and wiped his hands on a towel. Marcus, forgiveness isn't something you give or receive. Forgiveness is something we build together by doing the right things from now on. What do you mean? I mean that if you're willing to work honestly with me, we can forget the past and build something good for everyone. Mrs. Green watched her husband with admiration. Even after so much suffering, Robert was still able to offer a peaceful solution. Robert, are you sure about this? She asked softly. I am, my love. Holding on to anger only hurts ourselves. It's better to turn this whole situation into something positive. John was impressed by Robert's generosity, but still had doubts. What if Marcus doesn't accept the proposal? What if he tries to cause problems again? Then it will be different, Robert answered firmly. This time, I'm not going to run away. I have all the evidence I need and friends who will support me. Gabriel had managed to get the engine running perfectly. The strange sound had disappeared, and now only the smooth, powerful rumble of a well-tuned engine could be heard. I did it, Dad, Gabriel shouted, radiant with happiness. We did it, son, Robert corrected, hugging the boy. We worked together. Marcus timidly approached the engine. Can I hear how it sounds? Robert gestured yes. Marcus put his ear close to the engine and heard the machine's perfect operation. I've never heard an engine so quiet and powerful, he admitted. That's just one of the systems I developed, Robert explained. I have projects for engines that use half the fuel of a normal engine and last twice as long. Robert, Marcus said hesitantly, if you let me, I'd like to invest in your school, not as a partner, but as a supporter, without wanting anything in return. Why would you do that? Because I want my own son to have a better example than I've been so far. Robert was surprised by the answer. You have a son? He asked. Yes, I do. He's Gabriel's age. And when he asks me what I do for a living, I want to be able to say that I help talented people achieve their dreams. Gabriel tugged at his father's shirt. Dad, can I meet Mr. Marcus's son? Of course, Gabriel. If Mr. Marcus wants to bring him here to the workshop. Marcus smiled for the first time since he'd arrived at the workshop. He'll love it, he said. He's always been interested in mechanics, but I never encouraged him because I didn't think it made money. It does make money, John chimed in. You just have to do it right, with honesty and dedication. Mrs. Green approached Robert. My love, are you sure it's safe to stay here? What if more people interested in your inventions show up? They will, for sure. But now it's different. Now I'm not alone. What do you mean? Robert looked around the workshop at John, at Gabriel, and even at Marcus. Now I have a team, he said. John knows everyone in the region and can recommend honest mechanics to learn the systems. Gabriel can help teach the children who come to the school, and Marcus can help with business contacts. And me? Mrs. Green asked. You'll take care of the administrative part of the school, Robert replied. You were always better than me with numbers and organization. Gabriel was listening to everything with his eyes shining with emotion. Dad, is our family going to work together? Yes. Son, and we're going to help other families too. John liked the idea. Robert, can we use my workshop as a base to start? Of course, but we'll need to expand. Maybe build a new area just for the school. I can help with that, Marcus offered. I know good engineers and builders. Mrs. Green smiled, seeing the project take shape. It's going to be too good to be true. No, my love. Robert corrected her. It's going to be good because it's true. In the following months, Robert's mechanics school became a reality. Gabriel was the youngest student, but also one of the most dedicated. He loved teaching other children the tricks his father had shown him. The school attracted students from all over the region. Experienced mechanics came to learn Robert's innovative techniques, while young people discovered a profession that could give them a prosperous future. Marcus kept his promise and brought his son, a boy named Oliver, to meet Gabriel. The two became great friends and study partners. Oliver had a natural talent for technical drawing, which perfectly complemented Gabriel's manual skills. Gabriel, Oliver said one day while they were working together on a school project, "My dad told me you guys had problems in the past." "We did," Gabriel replied without resentment, "but my dad says the important thing is what we do from now on." "My dad has changed a lot since he met yours," Oliver said. "Now he stays home every weekend and even teaches me how to drive." "That's cool. My dad said that when I turned 15, he'll teach me too." The school grew so much that John decided to retire from the commercial workshop and dedicate himself entirely to the educational project. He became the coordinator of the adult courses, while Robert took care of developing new systems. Mrs. Green discovered she had a talent for administration and was soon managing not only the school, but also helping other local businesses organize themselves better. She created a small consulting office that served small entrepreneurs in the region. "Robert," she said one night while they were reviewing plans for the following year, "sometimes I think those 4 years we were separated were necessary." "Why do you think that?" "Because if you hadn't left, maybe we never would have discovered that Gabriel had so much talent, and maybe you never would have developed all these new systems." Robert reflected on his wife's words. "Maybe you're right, but I still would have preferred to stay here with you." "Me too, but it's in the past," she said. "The important thing is that now we're together and doing something that helps a lot of people." Gabriel entered the room at that moment, carrying a notebook full of drawings. "Dad, Mom, look what I invented." He showed a detailed drawing of a system that would make changing oil in cars much faster and cleaner. "Wow, Gabriel," Robert exclaimed, examining the drawing. "That's brilliant. Do you think it works?" "I think it does. And I think you're ready to start creating your own systems." Gabriel was radiant with happiness. "Really? I can start inventing things?" "Yes, you can, but remember that every invention has to be to help people, not just to make money." "I know, Dad," Gabriel replied. "I want to invent things that make mechanics' jobs easier and that make cars less polluting." Mrs. Green hugged her son with pride. "You're going to be a better inventor than your father." "I'm going to be different," Gabriel corrected. "I'm going to be the kind of inventor who works as a team." Robert's school continued to grow and attract attention from universities and companies across the country. Several engineering colleges began sending students for practical internships, interested in learning the innovative methods being developed there. One day, a group of businessmen from a major city appeared at the school, interested in buying the rights to Robert's inventions. They offered a very high sum and promised to expand the school to several cities. "Robert," said the group's leader, a man in an expensive suit and tie, "our company can turn your work into something national. Imagine schools like this in every major city." Robert listened to the entire proposal before answering. "It's an interesting idea, but I would have to discuss it with my team." "Your team?" The businessman seemed confused. "I thought you owned everything here. I'm the creator of the systems. But the school works because everyone contributes," Robert explained. "I can't make important decisions alone." Robert gathered John, Mrs. Green, Gabriel, and even Marcus to discuss the proposal. Each one gave their opinion, and after a lot of conversation, they came to a decision. "Sir, I'm sorry I didn't get your name," Robert said to the businessman from the big city. "Carvalho, Augusto Carvalho," he replied. "Mr. Carvalho, We have decided that we are not going to sell the rights to the inventions. But why? Our offer is very generous. Because we don't want this to become just a business, Robert said. The school has to continue to be a place where people learn because they want to grow, not because someone wants to profit from them. The businessman insisted, offering even more money, but Robert's answer was firm. Mr. Carvalho, what we can offer is a partnership. You can send students here, and we can train teachers for you, but the methodology and systems remain ours. That doesn't interest us. Carvalho replied coldly, we want the full rights, so unfortunately, we won't be able to work together. After the businessman left, Gabriel asked his father, Dad, weren't you tempted by the money? I was, son, but I remembered something you told me, Robert replied. What? That you want to be the kind of inventor who works as a team, Robert said. That made me realize that the value of our school isn't in the money it can generate, but in the people it trains. John agreed with the decision. Robert, you made the right choice. I know Carvalho's company. They buy promising small businesses and then fire everyone to cut costs. That's exactly the kind of thing I wanted to avoid, Robert confirmed. Marcus, who had been quiet throughout the discussion, finally spoke up. Robert, can I say something? Of course, Robert replied. A year ago, I would have accepted those guys' proposal in a heartbeat, Marcus said. I would have only seen the money and ignored everything else. And now I understand that some things are worth more than money, Marcus said. My son is learning not just mechanics here, but values. That's priceless. Gabriel approached Marcus. Mr. Marcus, you really have changed a lot. I have, Gabriel, thanks to you and your family, Marcus said. How? You showed me that it's possible to make money by doing good for people. My transport company has never been so prosperous, and at the same time I sleep peacefully, knowing that I'm not harming anyone. The conversation was interrupted by the arrival of an unexpected visitor. He was an elderly man, well-dressed but without ostentation, who asked to speak with Robert. My name is Dr. Henry Stevens, he introduced himself. I'm a retired professor of mechanical engineering from a top university. How can I help you, Doctor? Robert asked. Actually, it's your son who can help me, Dr. Stevens replied. Gabriel, why? I heard he's only 13 years old and already masters. Techniques that took me decades to understand, he said. I would like to meet him. Gabriel approached the professor timidly. Are you a real professor? He asked. Yes, I am, young man, and I'm very impressed with what I've heard about you. What did you hear? That you can teach 10-year-olds to understand engines that confuse trained engineers, Dr. Stevens said. Gabriel turned red with embarrassment. I just teach what my dad taught me. But teaching is a separate talent, the professor said. Many people know how to do, but few know how to teach. Robert was curious about the professor's visit. Dr. Stevens, did you come all the way here just to meet Gabriel? Actually, I came to make a proposal, he replied. The university wants to create an exchange program with your school. What kind of exchange? Our engineering students would come here for practical internships, and Gabriel could give lectures at the university on innovative teaching methods. Gabriel's eyes widened. Me? Give a lecture at a university? Why not? The professor smiled. You have something very valuable to teach our students. What? How to get people of any age interested in mechanics. Our professors are very technical, but you have the gift of simplifying complex concepts. Robert was proud but also concerned. Doctor, Gabriel is still very young. We don't want him to feel pressured. I understand completely. The idea would be gradual, Dr. Stevens said. First, he could talk to small groups, then maybe do practical demonstrations. Gabriel looked at his father. Dad, can I try? Only if you want to, son, and only if it doesn't interfere with your regular studies. I do want to, Gabriel said. It's going to be fun to teach different people. Dr. Stevens smiled in approval. Great. Let's start slow. How about Gabriel coming to give a demonstration to a class of freshmen? When? Gabriel asked excitedly. Next week, if you agree. Robert agreed, but set some conditions. Gabriel will go, but I'll go with him, he said. And we want it to be clear that he's not being exploited, just sharing knowledge. Perfect. That's exactly the spirit we were hoping for. Gabriel's first lecture at the university was a huge success. He explained engine diagnostic techniques using simple language and everyday examples. The university students were fascinated by the clarity of his explanations. Gabriel, one of the students asked after the presentation, how do you manage to remember so many technical details? Because I learned by playing, Gabriel replied. My dad always made every lesson seem like a game or a mystery to solve. And how did he do that? For example, when he wanted to teach me about valves, he would say they were like magical gates that controlled the path of the air, Gabriel explained. So I would get curious to know how the gates worked. Dr. Stevens was impressed with the methodology. Robert, have you ever thought about writing a book about your teaching methods? I've never thought about it, Robert replied. You should. What you've developed here could revolutionize technical education in the country. Gabriel chimed in. Dad, if you write a book, can I help? I know which parts are the most difficult to understand. Of course you can, son, Robert said. In fact, I think you should be a co-author. Co-author? What's that? It means you would also be considered an author of the book. Gabriel was radiant. Really? My name would be on the cover? Yes, it would, Robert said. Dr. Stevens enthusiastically supported the idea. Gabriel, you would probably be the youngest co-author in the history of technical books. In the following months, father and son worked together on the book. Gabriel contributed with drawings and simplified explanations, while Robert developed the more advanced technical parts. The book was launched a year later with the title Mechanics for All, Teaching and Learning Together. Gabriel, now 14, was invited to several book fairs and educational events. Gabriel, a journalist asked during an interview, what's the secret to teaching mechanics to children? There's no secret, he answered naturally. You just have to show that mechanics is like a giant puzzle. Everyone likes puzzles. And what is your dream for the future? Gabriel thought for a moment before answering. I want every child in this country to be able to learn a profession they like, not just anything. And I want parents not to have to leave home to protect their families. The answer moved the journalist and everyone watching. Why is that important to you? Because I spent 4 years without my dad. It was very difficult. No child should have to go through that. Robert, who was watching the interview, felt his eyes fill with tears. His son had turned the suffering of the past into a motivation to help others. After the interview, Gabriel sought out his father. Dad, did I say something wrong? On the contrary, son, you said everything right. Then why are you sad? I'm not sad, I'm proud. And I'm thinking about something. About what? About how you managed to take something good out of a bad situation. Gabriel hugged his father. I learned from you, Dad. You always said that problems exist to be solved, not to make us give up. Robert's school continued to grow and evolve. Gabriel became a respected teacher, even while still a teenager. He developed a special program to teach basic mechanics in public schools, bringing technical knowledge to children from low-income families. Marcus expanded his transport company and became one of the main funders of Gabriel's social program. His son, Oliver, specialized in technical drawing and was accepted into one of the best engineering universities in the country. John never married or had his own children, but he considered himself a grandfather to Gabriel and Oliver. He created a mentorship system where experienced mechanics would sponsor young apprentices, ensuring that traditional knowledge was not lost. Mrs. Green opened an administration school aimed at the wives of self-employed workers, teaching them how to manage their husbands' businesses and create their own sources of income. "Robert," she said one night, 5 years after it all began, "do you regret anything?" "I regret taking so long to come back, but I don't regret protecting you. And I don't regret waiting for you." Gabriel, now 18, entered the room carrying an envelope. "Dad and Mom, an important letter has arrived." "From whom?" Mrs. Green asked. "From the Ministry of Education. They want to turn our methodology into a national public policy." Robert took the letter and read it in silence with a look of growing surprise. "What does it say, Mrs. Green?" he insisted. "They want to create technical schools based on our model in all the states, and they want Gabriel to be the national pedagogical coordinator." Gabriel was speechless for a few seconds. "You mean I'll be able to teach kids all over the country?" "That's right," Robert confirmed, still in disbelief. "And you're coming with me?" "Of course we are, son. We're a team, remember?" Gabriel smiled, but then became thoughtful. "Dad, can I ask you a question?" "Of course," Robert replied. "If I accept this job, will I be able to help kids like I was, kids who grew up without a dad or a mom?" Robert understood that his son had found his true mission in life. "You will, Gabriel, and you'll do much more than that," Robert said. "You'll give opportunities to children who never imagined they could have a respected profession." "Then I accept." Gabriel's inauguration ceremony as National Pedagogical Coordinator took place in the capital at a party that brought together educators from all over the country. Marcus was a special guest, representing the businessmen who support technical education. During his speech, Gabriel spoke about the importance of believing in the potential of all children, regardless of their social background. "When I was 13, he said to the crowded audience, "many people thought I was just a cleaning boy, that I shouldn't be messing with engines. Today I know that every child has something special to offer the world. Our mission is to help them discover what that is." The audience stood up to applaud, moved by the words of the young coordinator. After the ceremony, the family gathered for a private conversation. "Gabriel," Robert said, "you know that from now on, your life is going to change a lot, right?" "I know, Dad, but I also know that you'll always be with me." Mrs. Green reassured him. "Wherever you go, we'll go. And remember," Gabriel said, taking his parents' hands, "all this started because you taught me that problems exist to be solved. Now let's solve the problem of technical education in the whole country." Robert looked at his son with infinite admiration. The boy, who had grown up without a father for 4 years, was now ready to be a father figure to thousands of children who needed guidance and opportunities. "Son," he said with an emotional voice, "I couldn't be more proud of you." "Me neither of you," Gabriel replied. "Thank you for teaching me that knowledge only has value when it's shared." The story of Gabriel and his family spread throughout the country, inspiring other families to value education and perseverance. The school in the town became a model, visited by educators from all over the world. Marcus created a scholarship fund that allowed low-income youth to study at the technical schools in the program. His relationship with his own son improved drastically, and he became an example of how people can change when they find a greater purpose. John continued at the original school, now expanded into a full campus. He specialized in training teachers and began traveling the country, teaching the methodology developed by Robert and Gabriel. Dr. Stevens retired from the university and moved to the town, where he created a postgraduate program in innovative technical education. He always said that his final years of his career were the most gratifying, working with people who really wanted to make a difference. 10 years after the day Gabriel timidly approached the mysterious engine, he married a teacher he met during a visit to a technical school. The ceremony took place in the workshop where it all began, with John serving as best man and Marcus as master of ceremonies. Robert, now nationally known as the father of the new technical education, continued inventing and teaching. His inventions were adopted by car manufacturers and helped to make domestic cars more efficient and less polluting. Mrs. Green became a national consultant in educational management and wrote 3 books on how to administer technical education institutions. She created a specific program to train women to manage schools and workshops, breaking gender barriers in the technical field. Gabriel's last great achievement was the creation of an international exchange program that brought young people from other countries to the country, interested in learning the technical education techniques developed there. "Dad," Gabriel said on the day of the first international class's graduation, "remember when you taught me that knowledge has no borders?" "I do, son," Robert replied. "Now I'm seeing it happen for real. These young people are going back to their countries and teaching other people. It's like our ideas are flying around the world." Robert smiled, seeing that his son had completely understood the philosophy he had tried to transmit from the beginning. "Gabriel, do you know what makes me most proud of you?" "What?" "It's not that you became famous or successful. It's that you never forgot where you came from, and you never stopped wanting to help others. I learned that from you, and from Mr. John, and even from Mr. Marcus," Gabriel said. "Each one taught me something different about how to be a better person." That night, the family gathered in the old workshop, now transformed into a museum that told the story of the National Technical Education Program. Gabriel showed his young children the tools he had used as a child. "Dad," Gabriel's oldest son, just 5 years old, asked, "will I also be able to fix engines?" "You'll be able to learn anything you want, my son, and your grandfather." "And I will be here to teach you," Gabriel replied. Robert picked up his grandson and took him to the original engine, the one Gabriel had fixed so many years before and which was now preserved as a historical piece. "See this engine, champion," he said to his grandson. "This is where it all started, with your dad being brave enough to try to help when no one else could. And can I be brave too?" "Yes, you can. And do you know why?" "Why?" "Because courage isn't not being afraid," Robert said. "Courage is doing what's right, even when you're afraid." The child nodded solemnly, as if he understood the importance of those words. Mrs. Green watched the scene with emotion, remembering how everything had started so simply and come so far. "Robert," she said softly, "do you think those 4 years we were separated were really worth it?" Robert looked around the workshop, seeing the photos on the wall that showed hundreds of young people who had graduated from the program. He saw the thank you letters from families whose lives had changed, and the awards received from educational organizations all over the world. "They were worth it, my love, not for the suffering, but for what we built after it," he said. Gabriel approached his parents, bringing a folder with documents. "Dad, Mom, I have some news for you." "What is it?" Mrs. Green asked. "I just got invited to give a lecture at the UN about technical education as a tool for social development." Robert and Mrs. Green were speechless. "The UN?" Robert repeated, incredulous. "That's right. They want me to talk about how our experience can be adapted for developing countries." Mrs. Green hugged her son with tears in her eyes. "My son speaking at the UN. Who would have thought? Who would have thought that the cleaning lady's son would go so far?" Gabriel completed without bitterness, just acknowledging the incredible journey his life had taken. John, who had arrived for the family meeting, heard the last words. "Gabriel, you were never the cleaning lady's son," he said. "You were always Gabriel, the boy who saw solutions where others saw problems." "Mr. John is right," Robert agreed. "Since you were little, you had this gift for simplifying the complicated and believing that everything can be fixed. And now you're going to take that message to the whole world," Mrs. Green added, radiant with pride. Gabriel looked around the workshop one last time before they all left. There was the engine that had changed his life, the tools his father had used to teach him the secrets of mechanics, the workbench where he had spent so many afternoons learning that patience and dedication can overcome any obstacle. "Do you know what I'm going to talk about at the UN?" he said to his family. "What?" they all asked together. "I'm going to say that technical education isn't just about teaching professions. It's about teaching that every person has value, that every problem has a solution, and that every family can overcome any difficulty when they work together." Robert hugged his son, feeling that his mission as a father had been successfully completed. "Gabriel, you know you don't need my approval for anything anymore, right?" he said. "Yes, I do, Dad. I'll always need it," Gabriel replied. "Not to make decisions, but to remember where I came from and where I want to go." "And where do you want to go?" Gabriel smiled, looking at his children playing among the old tools. "I want to go to a world where no child has to grow up without their parents, where every young person has the opportunity to learn a dignified profession, and where families are valued for who they are, not for what they have." "That's a very big dream, son. That's why I need you to help me make it happen," Gabriel said. The family left the workshop hand in hand, walking toward the future they had built together. Behind them, the engine that had started everything remained on display, not just as a museum. Peace, but as a symbol that problems exist to be solved, and that knowledge, when shared with love, can transform not only individual lives, but entire communities.